Hey Krista, I feel like talking today. I don't really feel like typing, so I thought I would answer my debriefing this way. But the first question is, what is something new you saw in yourself during this practicum? And something new that I saw in myself that I really wasn't a skill that I really thought that I had was my kind of like sociability. Like I was really nervous going into this that I wasn't going to be able to make those connections that I needed to with students just because of my like social anxiety, and I get so nervous and I just want to say the right thing, but like with them I really was just kind of able to be, real with them and like get to know them on a personal basis, and it wasn't as hard as I thought, and now I kind of feel more confident in being able to do that with all of my students in any environment. Even though I know some in the future will definitely pose more challenges than the ones that I've encountered so far. But what is something that occurred that pushed you out of your comfort zone? I think we already kind of talked about this in class, but just definitely those comments of that girl kind of pushed me out of my comfort zone, and kind of actually like just having to manage a classroom that definitely pushed me out of my comfort zone, because I've really only ever dealt with people that were like pretty relaxed, and it wasn't really hard to get them off their phone, and I didn't have to, run around the room the whole time to make sure that they were doing what they needed to be doing, especially throughout my whole practicum, because it was such a different environment than like being thrown into this new environment where I'm the teacher and the rest are my students. That really just kind of put me out of my comfort zone, because it really was the first time that I've done that when it hasn't been like other students in a class. Like I've done micro teaching and things like that, but in micro teaching, you're not really dealing with any major classroom management issues. So that really put me out of my comfort zone, and not really knowing what to expect out of their mouths like throughout the entire time after that beginning activity. It just kind of threw me off a little bit. And then describe one conflict that occurred during your field experience. How did you or your cooperating teacher handle the situation? How could you or would you have handled the situation differently? And how did the students react to how the situation was handled? I think one conflict that occurred almost every day in the field experience is either people sleeping, um, or either people on their phone when they're supposed to be working in an alternative environment. And my cooperating teachers, they would usually just walk around and be like, hey, let's get off our phones. But there really wasn't much follow up, like we've kind of discussed in class. It was just kind of get off your phone, and then 5 minutes later, the person's back on their phone again. And I mean, I personally think that something needs to be done in that classroom. I know it's kind of like working on their own pace, but a lot of them in there aren't even, a lot of the times they're not working on their things. So I have to kind of like babysit and sit down and like help them work through their stuff to actually be doing it. Now they're on YouTube, watching music videos, like things like that. So I really think that they kind of need to have a stricter technology policy, and because the classroom rules say no technology, but there's really no follow through. Like I think that they need to get referrals or something needs to be done, because it's just like I don't really understand why they're coming to this environment if they're just gonna sit there on their phone. Um, and then how did the students react to how the situation was handled? When it was from me trying to get them to put up their phones, I think they were kind of like, haha, like Mr. White doesn't even really make us like get rid of our phones completely. Like, why would we listen to you? So I think it's just kind of like they're used to not actually having any like really real well, now that I remember, I think Mr. White was telling me that if they go to the office, it's like an automatic suspension because of because of the program that they're in. But like, so there needs to be a solution about technology handled, and I think that that could be like kind of putting your phone in a box when you enter the classroom. I think something like that would help. But I know that the students definitely would not react well, because a lot of them listen to music and things like that. But like, you can listen to music on YouTube. You don't need your phone. So I think that's probably something that I would try in that environment, because like I said, I don't want to get them in a suspension just for having their phone out. So I think just avoiding that in general and putting it in a box would be a good way around that. Then number 4, what are some things you accomplished this rotation that you're proud of? Like I kind of talked at the beginning, I'm really proud of my just being social, because for me it's really hard to be social and have like personal relationships with people. If I have something like a purpose of the conversation, like oh, we need to come to an agreement over this. Like, I can have that conversation without a problem. But when it's talking about myself or trying to get to know other people, sometimes it's really hard for me to do that. But I was able to open up to people, my cooperating teachers, things like that. And that really kind of shows me that I'm going to be able to do this. It's going to take practice, of course, for me to talk to everybody like a social butterfly, but I'm definitely making that progress. So that was an accomplishment for me, having like relationships with almost all the students in the classroom. And then giving my first actual lesson to a classroom, that was a big accomplishment for me. Learning how to make copies, that was a big accomplishment for me. There's just like really simple things give me anxiety because I just feel like I don't know how to do a lot of things, and I'm the type of person who wants to know how to do everything. So it's just like, I don't know. But that was just an accomplishment for me personally, knowing how to make copies, like touring the rooms, seeing the Spanish rooms, like just accomplishment. Just even being in a school finally, it's accomplishment for me because it's like after all this preparing, I'm finally here and finally doing this. So I think just the experience altogether was an accomplishment for all of us. And then 5, what is something you tried in your classroom this rotation for the first time? How did it go? The first thing that I tried is like kind of doing the posters and the gallery walk thing, because in a lot of the lesson plans that I've created, like prepping and things, I've done the gallery walk. I think it's a cool way to like kind of see what everyone is doing without having to put people on the spot. And I think it went okay. A lot of people didn't get up from their chairs and actually go around, or they were just talking and kind of moving. I think the food was kind of distracting, but I don't know. I think it went well, but it could have definitely gone better. I think I need to have more structure and maybe like do like timed gallery walk, like have people, you'll be looking at this poster for a minute and then switch, like so there's not just like chaos of everybody going around the room at once, going to the same poster and things like that. You definitely learn hands on. That's something that I have determined that you learn in as you're doing it, and that's how most professions are. But with teaching and having so much responsibility on your hands, you're just kind of like, I wish I knew how to do it now, but I know it's kind of one step at a time, and you do the best that you can. And 6, what is something you found particularly frustrating during your rotation? We talked about this in class too, but something that's been very frustrating to me overall is just kind of the apathy, or not really caring about school, not really caring about learning. And I can understand because my situation has definitely been different from a lot of these students, but it's frustrating when someone tells you that they don't care about this, that it's stupid, and then you can't change anything about it, because when they're on the computers, all of their curriculum is already there, it's already set. You don't really have any control over that, over what they're doing. So that's something that really frustrated me about the alternative environment. I think having alternative choice is so important, but there's definitely improvements to be made, because there's like little room for differentiation, or building more student interest and control kind of in the environment, other than they work at their own pace. But the information in itself that they're learning, they don't really get any control over that whatsoever. And that, I think, was the most frustrating thing to me when we hear about how important it is to like kind of change things around for people to better suit them. And then you have this program that's so like, and you can't change anything about it. And I think that was really frustrating for me. 7, what is something you would change about this rotation if you could? The only thing that I would have changed is having more time, I guess, to teach in the way that mirrors how I will be teaching. Now, after this rotation, I'm actually kind of interested in the alternative environment, trying to improve upon it, trying to think of that, and I would love to work with the kids in that environment. If there's an open position, we'll see. But I think for what I will probably most likely be doing, that environment wasn't the best for the structure and classroom management, but it did teach me how to get to know my students and how to, work with students that don't necessarily have the confidence that they should at that level because of what they've been told and things like that. But just kind of trying to put confidence back in your students that have been told time and time again, or like, explicitly or implicitly, that they're not really going to be successful. So trying to help people that have see themselves as unsuccessful feel successful again. That's something that it helped me with. But it definitely would have changed the fact that it was them on computers and me just kind of walking around, because I didn't feel like I got as much instructional value out of the experience, more so like the personal relationships and things like that. 8. What has caused you the most stress? This is a hard question because I didn't feel terribly stressed. I think the thing that caused me the most stress is when I was actually doing my Fiesta Friday and just trying to keep everybody on task and off their phones and things like that. That's what caused me the most stress. But daily, at the beginning, it was definitely like those few students in the classroom that just didn't want to open up at all. But in like 2 or so weeks, I came back and these students just started talking to me, and it kind of came out of nowhere. And I was like, I don't know what I did to like change that, but it was really cool because all of a sudden these people that never like said a word to me when I entered the class were talking to me the entire class. Oh, and something else that caused me the most stress. Sorry, I'm definitely venting, but I had a student that I really connected with, and he actually got taken from the school and put into another type of program because the alternative environment wasn't working for him. He wasn't making progress towards any credits or anything. So it caused me a lot of stress because we had like this really good relationship and we were working with together, and I wanted to try to help him find something to do that really catered to his interests. And I came in class one day and Mr. White told me that we had lost him, not like his life, but like he's just not in the program anymore, and that kind of caused me some stress because we really were making progress, and it just kind of had to stop there. And that's something that can be a reality for a lot of teachers. You have someone in your class one day and they're not there anymore, so that just means preparing me, but it really caused me some stress, and I'm worried about him and don't necessarily have a way to contact him, so that too. And then, in what ways were you helpful to your cooperating teacher this rotation? I mean, I tried to just daily check in with students, see how they're doing. Are they meeting goals? I tried to set goals with students, things like that, get them motivated. Why are you, why are you in here? Why are you coming here? If you don't care, why are you coming here? Those types of questions, because I would get those students that said they didn't care, but you know that they do because they're still coming there. They can do that from their bed online if they really want to. That's an option, but they're coming to school, which like to me seems like they want some sort of social interaction. And then so I tried to just help my teacher with keep track of things, try to help students if they were having troubles with certain content, more so English and like social studies, because in the math, like I'm sorry, I just couldn't do it. Like I couldn't be helpful in that way, and I really felt bad about that because it sucks just like not having really any knowledge in math. Like I have knowledge, but that was stuff I did like 6 years ago, and I don't like math, so I haven't really applied it since. So I guess yeah, I couldn't really be helpful in that way, but I was just trying to help how I could, taking students, being like a pass for students, taking to the nurse, the library, things like that. As it's there's not a lot of teacher responsibility, I guess. Throughout the entire class, it's more so like opening quizzes and making sure everything online is okay, but I did the most that I could. Kind of took some initiative to get to know the students and set goals with them and things like that. And then 10, what was the most valuable thing you learned in the field? In the field, the most valuable thing I learned is that you have to try to get to know your students before they will open up to you. And if they can't even really say hi to you or any of that, then how are they going to like give you a full-on explanation of the present tense in Spanish? Like if you can barely get over that hump of saying hi, then you're not going to be able to get them to have that confidence or feel comfortable enough to express their opinions and things like that. And so the most valuable thing that I learned is just treat people nice, just be there. Like even if they look like they don't want you there, be there. Like be something constant for these students. And even if you're like, wow, they really don't like me, like push through that and push through that, because you will get that progress. And I think that's what I learned, and that's something that I will take with me throughout this entire career, because at the beginning, you might have an opinion of somebody, but that definitely changes once you get to know them. And that's something that I will definitely take with me everywhere. Then 11, what was the biggest mistake you made? How can you avoid making the same mistake in the future? I think the biggest mistake I made, I didn't really let it get too far, but it was kind of like letting them see me more as a friend, I guess, sometimes, because some of the stuff that they would try to say to me, I was like, you definitely don't see me as a teacher, like, which is I can explain because in the environment it was hard to be seen as the authority, but I guess the biggest mistake I made was just like try to like have them call me like Miss Peyton or something that's not Peyton, just so they don't seem like I'm like a peer, like actually am like a little different from you all. Like I don't want to be that authoritarian, like I'm the grown up here, like you know what I'm saying, but we do kind of need that those clear boundaries of the fact that I'm not your friend. You can't talk to me about all the things that you would talk to this person about. And so I think to kind of mistake that, that will definitely be something that I'm more so like, you know, established when I'm talking about my classroom procedures and things like that. But overall, yeah, I think definitely that's going to be my biggest challenge, is kind of finding the boundary between friend and friendly. 12, who was your most challenging student? Why? Just tell me a bit about why the student was so challenging to you. Gotta think about this one for a second. My most challenging student was definitely somebody that, you know, I think about, and that it was hard. He was probably one of the people in the classroom that I really didn't get to have that relationship with that I wanted, just because he was really closed off. And you know, the conversations that I did have with him, he told me that he was working towards credits so he could be back on the football team, I think. But every day I would come in there and he would just kind of be sleeping, not really doing anything. So it's like, I guess it was just frustrating to me because I'm like, you know, you have this goal and you know you're capable. You're just not. You're in here and you're not doing anything, and just like every day trying to like wake him up or get him to do something, and him just not wanting to do it whatsoever. And I think that was the most challenging thing. Just like having someone that like and you try, because I like I told you, the most of the other people that like were like that at the beginning, in a couple of weeks, like they started talking to me, we laughed together and everything, but with him I never got that. And like I had to leave before, as I was just like starting to kind of get that from him, just because, you know, the days that I would be like, oh, today I get to talk to him, he wasn't there, like he wouldn't be in class. Or then the days I would come, he would be sleeping and I would try to talk to him and he would just be like, he just turned his head or like something like that. And it's frustrating. And again, like the environment really frustrated me sometimes, just because it doesn't allow me that room to change things to try to make them more interesting, or you know, things like that. So just having that student that really wouldn't open up no matter how hard I tried, no matter how hard I tried to relate. And I think that was probably the most frustrating thing. But you know, I wish I would have more time because I knew I could have gotten through it eventually. Okay. So pretend that you get to collect a stipend for this field experience based on the job that you did. How much do you feel that you earn? The number you come up with should be in no way based on the current cooperating teacher stipend. Rather, come up with a number that truly reflects how you should be compensated for your work in the field. So when I think about it, I was there for what, like 10 hours for 4 weeks. So that's like 40 weeks. I mean, 40 hours. Probably more or less 40 hours. Definitely like a little bit more than 40. But I mean, I would say I earn like $10 an hour. So like $400 maybe, something like that. Take away some taxes, but I say I don't really feel like I would need to be paid for that. Like it was something that for me was like hanging out with like some really cool students, getting to know them and trying to help them and guide them, and it didn't really seem like I was working. Like I was having fun most of the time. I think that's kind of what is like challenging about teaching, is because you realize that you need more money, but at the end of the day, you're like, I enjoy being here so much. This environment with these kids and helping them learn, that like I don't feel like I even need to be paid. It just feels like something fun to me. But you know, like I said, with that environment, I wasn't doing as much like hard work, like planning and things like that. I was just really walking around, making sure they were doing okay, keeping them on track. So like $10 an hour, I would say that's fair. Like if I was actually in the real environment of lesson planning every day and giving those lessons and guiding activities, classroom management, I would say like $25 an hour maybe. But no, I did the best that I could. I am the person, you know, that wants to do every job, whether it's working at as a pizza delivery person or, you know, a busser at a Mexican restaurant. I want to do the job to the best of my ability, and I can definitely say that I tried. I tried my best, and I think I did my best. And I really can't wait to just learn more about myself as an educator and, $10 an hour. If that's how it is, that's how it is. I think that most of us can agree that we don't get into this profession for money. But no, I worked hard, but definitely would have been working harder in a different environment. But what this environment requires, I definitely think that I met those requirements. And overall, it was a great experience, and I'm so thankful for it. And looking forward to my next practicum. Have a good day, Cresta. Thanks for watching this 20-minute video of me speaking, and yeah, adios.